A lot of Iranians following the news right now are getting nervous that what if President Trump comes up with a deal with the Islamic Republic and the military operations stop and the Iranian people have to deal with the Islamic Republic for many years to come, and that the Americans and Israelis are not going to finish the job and topple the regime and do regime change in Iran. The news keeps changing every day. One day, it seems like military operations are about to happen. Then the next day, President Trump comes and posts something that maybe suggests to some people that a deal is about to happen. And then we go back to military operations actually happening. But then we get some information that suggests to some people that this is not really enough to do regime change. It's only meant to put pressure on the Islamic Republic to accept the terms of surrender by President Trump. This has turned into a roller coaster for so many, not just Iranians, but everyone around the world who is really eager to see the end of the Islamic Republic. At the time that I'm recording this, there's new information that maybe United States and the Islamic Republic are reviewing a one-page plan for them to start the negotiations again and put a pause on the military operations between them. And some people are suggesting that this is the reason why President Trump put a pause on the Operation Project Freedom. Given how fast things are changing, by the time this video is out, there might have been some progress in this, or maybe we have huge escalation and military operations by United States and Israel have resumed inside Iraq. But the important point that I want to make in this video is that just following this roller coaster and being an observer to what United States and Israel and maybe other countries are going to do to weaken and maybe eventually topple the Islamic Republic is not a good position for the Iranian people to be. The Iranian people need to become actively involved, bringing in their own liberation. We need to move away from two extreme positions. One position is the ridiculous idea that if the Iranian people want liberation, they should not rely on any foreign power. They should only do this themselves, and they should be completely self-reliant. It's only up to them to do regime change without any help from anyone else. That is a ridiculous extreme suggestion. Most revolutions that have been successful in history, they had help from outside, including the American Revolution. They had help from the French. So this expectation that the Iranian people need to do this on their own without any help is nonsense. But the other extreme is the idea that the Iranian people are completely helpless and that they cannot do anything themselves, and that we should completely just rely on the Americans and the Israelis to come and do regime change for the Iranian people. And it's important for also more Iranian people to understand, and many of them do understand this, is that the Americans and Israelis, even in the worst case scenario, even if they completely stop hostilities against the Islamic Republic, come up with a deal, end to military operations, everybody goes home, the American Navy leaves the region. This is the scenario that many Iranian people are worried about. But if you look at what just happened in the past 2 months, the amount of damage to the Islamic Republic is unbelievable. Think about where we are right now compared to where we were before. It's important to understand that I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. Even with the worst case scenario, a major obstacle was removed from the path of the Iranian people. And the Islamic Republic has been put to its weakest position ever. And the deal itself, even if we do get a deal that ends all military operations, at least by the Americans, because the Israelis are not going to stop, even in that situation, the deal adds to the damage to the Islamic Republic. A lot of people look at a deal as if it helps the Islamic Republic survive, as if it protects the Islamic Republic and it helps it surviving. But beyond the military operations, where the most important people within the Islamic Republic have been killed, not just the supreme leader, but close to 60 of the most important regime officials, including the most important IRGC leaders who are not just responsible for spreading terrorism worldwide and their expansionist pan-Islamic agenda, but also these are the same people responsible for suppressing the Iranian people and killing them, has made our job, the Iranian people, a lot easier. Whatever the difficulty was for the Iranian people to be able to topple the regime, whatever that was, it's now a lot less. Also keeping in mind the fact that so many of the Basij and IRGC headquarters have been killed and so many important people responsible for organizing the anti-protests operations by the Islamic Republic are dead. Many of the infrastructure required to respond to a protest by Iranian people have been removed. The Islamic Republic's spending ability has been damaged significantly. But again, the deal, let me actually finish that thought. The deal, that will also damage the Islamic Republic because it hurts them ideologically, meaning that it will cause significant amount of division and infighting within the Islamic Republic. And that lack of unity will help the Iranian people, will put the Iranian people at a better position to eventually get to a point where they could be successful with their revolution. It's important for the Iranian people to manage their expectation. It makes sense for them to keep pushing and advocating for maximum support and continuous attacks by Americans and Israelis on the Islamic Republic. Obviously, it makes sense for them to keep pushing for that, and they are. But from the other perspective, it also makes sense to prepare for this being it, which is already a lot. Everything the Americans have done, if it ends today, we should be prepared to continue our fight with the Islamic Republic going forward without any other military operations from the Americans. I want to emphasize again that I'm not saying that this will happen, but we need to be prepared for that. And also, when it comes to our messaging that we put out there, it's important to make sure that you show gratefulness to the Americans because they've already done so much more than most people expected. 2 months ago, most people wouldn't have predicted this level of damage by the American and Israeli coalition against the Islamic Republic. And most successful revolutions have been successful because of their reliance on the people. It's also important to remember that Prince Reza Pahlavi always insisted that this is the Iranian people's revolution. This revolution can only be successful if it relies mostly on the Iranian people eventually toppling the regime. Some of the messaging coming from the United States also seems to suggest that this is the direction that we are heading, where the regime change is going to be more reliant upon the Iranian people being successful with their uprising, which is a good reminder that I have been suggesting for months now that the best way to empower the Iranian people themselves, for them not to need to always be completely reliant on outside forces helping them, is to arm the Iranian people. And now that we're seeing that the conversation is moving closer to regime change can happen by relying on the Iranian people doing their own uprising, I can see that more people are now finally discussing arming the Iranian people.
So, look, if they had guns, which they don't have, if they had guns, guns were sent and other people took those guns. If they had guns, they would fight back. I'm convinced of that. But, you can't have an unarmed population against people with AK-47s and stand there, even if you have 250,000 people. So, you started off by asking me, would I like to see them? And I'm very torn on it because they lost 42,000 people in the first 2 weeks. I don't really want to see that. They have to have guns. And
Okay.
I think they're getting some guns. As soon as they have guns, they'll fight like as good as anybody there is.
We don't need American boots on the ground. We've got millions of boots on the ground in Iran. They just don't have any weapons. Give them the weapons so they can rise up like we did to destroy this regime. A Second Amendment solution, I think, would go a long way to ending this war.
Another thing that the Iranian people and the world need to be prepared for is that the revolution taking longer than you expected. Again, I'm not saying that will happen. The Islamic Republic might fall tomorrow, but you should be prepared for this fight taking much longer. I'm not going to say how much longer because I know I will upset some people, but I understand why it's easy for us to say that this fight might take longer, not being in Iran, not being able to pay for basic needs, not being able to pay for medicine that is needed, for the operation that is needed, losing your job, watching people being executed on a daily basis. So mentioning that this fight might have to take longer is difficult to listen to, that's coming from somebody that is not experiencing that hardship. And again, it might not take that long, but it also might. And to fight effectively against the Islamic Republic, one needs to prepare for whatever could happen. If you look at it historically, revolutions sometimes take a long time to be successful. 4 things you need to take into account. First of all, ending the military operations by the Americans doesn't mean that the Americans will not at some point start military operations against the Islamic Republic again. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is that imagine what would be in that deal when it comes to any signs of capitulation from the Islamic Republic regarding getting rid of the enrichment uranium inside Iran, regarding opening the Strait of Hormuz, the missiles, the proxies, anything, even though the Islamic Republic will try to spin it as a victory. At the end of the day, we have official statements from Mujtaba Khamenei saying that the enriched uranium or enriching uranium should not even be discussed. And now it's being discussed. Another official statement is that the Strait of Hormuz should never be open again. And now that is being discussed. And many other points that many regime supporters within the Islamic Republic will see as an absolute betrayal. And that will significantly damage the Islamic Republic's ideological power and its base of support. And a lot of people underestimate how big of a damage that is to the Islamic Republic. Another point is that the Israelis will never give up on fighting the Islamic Republic. Just like for the Iranian people, the Islamic Republic is an existential threat to the Israelis. And then the last point is the Iranian people themselves. The Iranian people will never give up fighting against the Islamic Republic. Many times people have betted against the Iranian people thinking that this was the last uprising, and they were wrong every single time. And they will continue to be wrong if they bet against the Iranian people again. The way I usually frame it is that the Islamic Republic is this poisonous tree that we are swinging at it with an axe. And people keep asking, which swing is it that is going to finally bring down this tree? And my response is that nobody really knows which one of these swings is going to bring down the tree and how many more swings of the axe do we need to bring down the tree. We don't know that. But we do know this, is that if we keep swinging, the tree at some point will come down. All you need to do is keep swinging that axe. I say all of this not to tell Iranian people what to do. The Iranian people have shown to have great wisdom regarding what the best solutions are. And many of the points that I'm making is me noticing that wisdom and communicating that to you. This is my observation of many of the discussions that is already taking place among Iranians. This is basically me attempting to somewhat amplify some of those conversations. If you want to come talk to me about this in much more detail or ask me questions, come join our discussion group. It's not just me there. There are many other interesting people there talking about politics, not just Iran-related politics, but politics in general. It's a really great community that we have built, and I'm there almost every single day. So the link is in the description and or the bio. And also there's a QR code somewhere around here that you could scan to join the discussion group. The discussion group is a really great place to meet people who are interested in these topics. So I hope I'll see you guys there. Let me know if this was helpful, interesting, educational. Commenting with these types of comments, telling me that these videos are helpful, really motivate me to make more videos like this. It truly does. So thank you for people who I've noticed you guys commenting, saying that Armin, thank you. This was really good. I learned something. I read those comments and it really motivates me. So thank you for those comments. My name is Armin Navabi. I'm Israel Chai. Long live America. Javid Shah. Payande Iran.